Deku may have not been born with a quirk, but what would happen if you made him a little bit stronger than just being born with a quirk? What would happen if throughout the heavens and earth, Izuku Midoriya stood alone as the honored one? That's what we're going to be talking about in this What If. What if Deku was Gojo's descendant? The chosen one, the one who stands alone, and even the honored one. Izuku Midoriya has been called all of these things. All of these things were brought upon him when he was just more or less at the age of 4. Quickly, his powers would develop. Quickly, his strength would increase, and everybody around him would be in complete and utter shock. It wasn't as if he just had some powerful quirk. No, this was far different than just some powerful quirk. His powers seemed to be endless. His powers seemed to be just scratching the surface. But at the same time, it seemed as if he was so strong. At a young age of 4, he had such a massive confidence around him. This confidence would portray throughout the entirety of his life. From the age of 4 to the age of 8, Izuku would develop skills that you wouldn't possibly even imagine. Mastering hand-to-hand combat in a matter of, well, a couple years without even taking a class. He saw some videos online and thought, wow, this was cool, and he mastered them almost immediately, learning every single hand-to-hand combat skill you could possibly think of. Beyond this, his powers began to grow. His skill began to grow. And some of these powers would get shown off when he would get into a bit of an argument with his childhood friend Bakugo. Bakugo, both being at the age of 10, would send an explosion at Izuku. Izuku would stand there as the explosion hit him directly in the face. But it didn't. It didn't really directly hit Izuku at all. He acted as if he flew backwards and that he took damage, but there was some sort of invisible barrier, a barrier that would infinitely protect him, leading to him calling this, well, infinity. A barrier, or basically this realm in between realms that would basically stop anything in his wake, as if there was this small little, well, cloak all around Izuku. No matter what, he began to think harder, think longer about some of his techniques, some of the things he could do. I mean, he's been a big fan of anime and cartoons all his life. Anything crazy he would love to manipulate. So that's exactly what he tries to do. He tries to manipulate various different things, and when he begins to do so, he begins to channel a power that is very unknown to him. A power that allows him to immensely rack up his strength and give off energy that you wouldn't possibly even imagine. The age of only 10, Izuku was able to do such extraordinary things, and as he grows in age, the stronger he will get, and that is just a given. That is an inevitable thing that will happen. His confidence would soar through the roof, and frankly, he would truly believe that he stood alone as the honored one, and everyone around him would believe so as well. Almost every chance the teachers and parents got, they would be talking about Izuku, talking about how he's the future of Hero Society, and that he's going to be, well, maybe even on the level of All Might. But I mean, maybe that's a little too optimistic. But for Izuku, he truly believed this. He believed that he would be better than All Might, that he would be able to protect everybody like he wanted to in the very first place, well, better than All Might ever could. The abilities he holds, the techniques he can manipulate, these are the ones that will set him up. These are the ones that would make him better than All Might. He is not just brute strength. He is far more than just that. He could absolutely obliterate villains, but he could also protect people so much better than All Might ever would. not by just fighting, by using all of his power capable to him, using the ability to more or less have a barrier, a cloak all around him, using an ability that feels just limitless. Everything feels limitless. He's able to even master martial arts and increase that martial arts even more with a technique that's he didn't even know he could even do. It's as if when he throws a punch, this lightning quick reflex is included in his punch, blasting forward, and it's honestly the only thing he could even deem it as is some sort of flash, maybe a black flash. He is completely taken back by his own power. That's how you know he's so powerful. He's taken back by the idea that he can do such extraordinary things. As time would go by though, he would continue with his schooling and so on. He is a very intelligent kid, but frankly he wasn't too fond of schooling in itself. Not a big fan of, doing homework and doing schoolwork in general. It's kind of boring for him. He would rather train, spar, or do anything other than, studying. He wanted to learn more about his power. He wanted to know how it worked. He actually began to see far different things happening to him. His green eyes that were once there, no longer there. He would eventually have to just wear a blindfold. Not because it's some sort of overwhelming power, but honestly the fear of what his eyes could truly do. There's very, very big question marks with his eyes. He doesn't really know. But if his eyes are as powerful as his other abilities, he could look at somebody and they could die. I mean, he's not sure if that's exactly how that works, but that's the last thing he would want. He wouldn't want anybody getting hurt because of some power he didn't know even how it worked yet. So he began wearing a blindfold. But when he would wear this blindfold, it seemed as if he could still see everything. That might sound crazy, but it's as if he can truly see everything around him. Everything to the very, very minute detail, all the way to the atomic level. And this would kind of, in a way, overwhelm him just slightly. But after a day of getting used to it, frankly, it didn't overwhelm him anymore. It's as if he was able to manipulate space all entirely. I mean, it wouldn't be too outlandish from the stuff he's been able to do so far, but it's definitely something he hasn't thought too much about. But his eyes alone became a focal point for students and a lot of teachers all around. They would talk about how Izuku's so strong, he needs to blindfold himself. It's as if he needs to handicap himself, in which Bakugo would get frustrated about. He wants to be the powerful one. He wants to be the strong one. Bakugo would basically lean into this and start training extremely hard. Harder than you would even possibly imagine. But still, there really would be no catching up. Bakugo would always try and shoot blasts and shoot explosions at Izuku, and in a way he thought he was getting stronger, because Izuku would get knocked down, but he would stand back up and tell Bakugo that actually did hurt a little bit. But was that really true? Was Izuku maybe just sparing his feelings? Well, we would find this out a little bit later, when they're both older. When they're about 15 years old, Izuku would be kind of hanging out and talking to people. He'd be talking to people that he sees in front and more or less just chilling. And while he's hanging out, Bakugo would shoot a blast at him from behind. But as he does this, nothing happens. Izuku wasn't actually necessarily ready for this. He was kind of just not paying attention at all. So when he got blasted, he didn't move at all. Bakugo would look at him and Bakugo would be confused. Did he get weaker? Or did Izuku just get so much stronger? Izuku scratches the back of his head and apologizes to Bakugo, saying that he didn't really want to hurt his buddy's feelings, but did he really think he was hurting him all these years? I mean, that's kind of like outlandish, no? I mean, he is the honored one. Izuku would kind of chuckle at this and pat Bakugo on the shoulder, saying that nobody else would even come close to touching him anyways. There's a reason for this. Izuku tells Bakugo to shake his hand. Bakugo refuses, but Izuku insists, telling him he wants to show him something. He waves toward Bakugo once again to shake his hand, in which Bakugo does, grabbing Izuku's hand hard. But he can tell that he's not grabbing Izuku's hand. It's as if his hand is still hovering. What the hell? What are you, magic? Izuku would say that he's not quite magic. That's not necessarily what it is. But frankly, nobody else knows what it is, so it could be magic, I guess. Izuku tells him that this barrier, he deemed it as infinity. It's more or less infinite protection from whatever. He hasn't really thought much about it and where it comes from and where his power necessarily stems from, but he must be pretty strong in another life, or maybe a descendant of someone that transcends time itself. He's not so sure, but like he said, throughout the heavens and earth, he does truly stand alone. Bakugo would scoff at this, saying that he'll get stronger. He'll beat this so-called infinity, and he'll shatter his own limits, and he'll shatter that so-called infinite protection. Bakugo would walk away, more or less pissed, but Izuku would slightly smirk. It's as if he's kind of teaching Bakugo something. That might sound odd, but in a way, Izuku is teaching Bakugo to push himself to get even stronger. He has an inherent knack for wanting to teach others, especially when you have this overwhelming power on top of being overwhelmingly more powerful than everyone else. You would want to teach people. You would want to help others out. I mean, Bakugo is a little rude when you try and help him, but to be fair, he has to definitely help Bakugo in a certain way, and the way is exactly what you just heard. Bakugo would just obviously storm off, and Izuku would just continue on with throughout his day. He would do the normal stuff he normally does. He would do a little bit of training, he would do his schoolwork and not really want to do it, but luckily some people in his school would definitely do it for him because, you know, everybody's just obsessed with Izuku, which is kind of cool, but at the same time kind of annoying, because when he wants to have downtime, when he wants to go get some sweets from the store, there's always someone calling his name, which is a little bit annoying, but overall he just he deals with it. Still though, the time for middle school is soon to come. He hasn't personally made it to the level of a pro hero yet, and he hasn't made it to what he believes to be his potential, which is the #1 hero, the greatest of all time, the #1 hero worldwide, not just All Might. He wants to surpass it all, in which this is the only way for him to do so. It's time for UA. UA is the way for him to do so. But let's just say UA has heard about him a lot. A lot of people all around the city, every city in Japan knows who Izuku is, at least to a certain extent. Heard of the boy that is extremely powerful, the next All Might. All the hype is around Izuku. So when the middle school is all over and said and done with, well, let's just say you're going to get a lot of calls, a ton of them, from pro heroes, from schools, from anything you could even think of. Izuku is a hot commodity, a commodity that every single hero high school wants and needs. It would be perfect for merchandise, perfect for showing them off, and so on and so forth. Izuku is the ticket, and UA wants Izuku as well. There's no denying that Izuku is powerful. There's no denying what he is as a potential hero in the future, but UA knows that if they get Izuku, they will remain on top. And on top of that, well, they'll be able to hone in probably the strongest hero they've ever seen. So once that last day of, well, middle school is over, Izuku's sitting through it as the teacher rants on about this or that, and frankly, he doesn't even really pay attention that much. Hearing Bakugo get mad at the fact that both him and Izuku are going for UA, but like I said, Izuku's barely even paying attention. The bell would ring and that's all he would hear, and he would leave, getting ready, and finally feeling as if it's time to transcend to the next step in his hero journey. he would begin to leave and think about some things on the way home. He would think about different heroes. He would think about what type of hero costume he would want, what he would want to emulate. He was thinking he kind of likes the more basic stuff in terms of heroes. He believes that All Might is awesome, super cool, but he's a little bit flashy for his taste. Frankly, he's not a big fan of some over-the-top, muscly, and bright color clothing. He prefers his nice blindfold, maybe a dark blue type of clothing, maybe a black type of clothing. Something that would cover the majority of his body, but not restrict him from his quick and fast twitch movements. Stuff like that is what Izuku is thinking of, and as he thinks about this, he heads under a bridge. This bridge would kind of be the first stepping stone, truly, for Izuku. And not because he's walking over the bridge, but because what's about to come out from under the bridge. The sludge villain. The sludge villain would come charging in. Out of nowhere, too. Izuku would be kind of confused. He would just stand there as the sludge villain more or less charges at him. Izuku would wait, and the sludge villain would come crashing into Izuku. But as the sludge villain crashes into Izuku, he would split into two, as if, well, Izuku standing there and waiting, and the sludge villain crashing into him split the sludge villain in half, as it more or less just split past Izuku. The sludge villain would reconjoin behind him and would be confused. How the hell did he do that? What is this kid? What is he made of, freaking steel? And that doesn't even make sense. He would still be able to grab onto him, but he can't even grab onto him. It's as if he's like slick with butter all over him. What is wrong with this kid? The sludge villain would more or less be saying all of this, well, straight to Izuku. Izuku would turn around and ask what's wrong with him. He's attacking a bystander, someone that didn't do anything. Who's he running from? He seems so terrified. It's truly sad seeing a villain be so scared. The sludge villain would be pissed, as Izuku's straight up mocking him at this point, and he would charge back in at Izuku, but quickly the sludge villain would regret this drastically. Izuku would put out his hand. Actually, no, one finger, and this odd looking sphere would begin being created. It begins to produce this vacuum of some sorts, sucking in the sludge villain into this kind of condensed ball. As it does this, Izuku would kind of just play around with the sludge villain as it levitates all around him. Izuku would grab a bottle, and as he grabs the bottle, he forces the sludge villain within that said bottle, closing the bottle, and that was it. The sludge villain couldn't do a single thing. Izuku begins laughing at the sludge villain, saying he's really bad at his own job. I mean, if you're gonna be a villain, like, at least do it properly. Like, what is he doing? The first rule of villain is to, like, you know, actually pay attention to who they're attacking. Does he not know who he is? Izuku says that he's kind of known everywhere at the moment, and he decides to attack him. This was the worst mistake ever. It's like attacking All Might. As he says this, All Might blasts through the manhole cover, and Izuku turns around. Oh, you really are stupid. Look who was chasing you. Oh my god, you know what? This makes sense. Well, you know what? Here you go, All Might. I did your job for you. You're welcome. Izuku begins to walk away as he waves to All Might, but All Might asks if he's that kid, Izuku Midoriya, the one that all these people are saying are going to be better than him. Izuku turns and says that he already is. But that is who he is. He is Izuku Midoriya. He is the honored one. Izuku smiles as he just walks away once again. All Might tries to stop him, but Izuku's already gone. He's not really thinking much about it. He just knows that he doesn't really care if he sees All Might. Yes, he is strong. Yes, he is powerful. And he is a big fan. He thinks All Might's great and all. And he's done amazing things for the community. But at the same time, he's no fanboy. Izuku knows his own hype, and he knows his hype around himself. So it's hard to be a fanboy of someone else that you truly believe you'll be better than, and maybe even right now you think you're better than. With that said though, Izuku just heads home. When he arrives at his home, he tells his mother what happened. the whole sludge villain incident, how he got attacked by this goop that smelled like complete and utter garbage, and then he actually decided to attack him. And he was so confused at why he did, because, you know, he's so well known and stuff in Japan. But then he realized the sludge villain was stupid enough to fight All Might. What kind of dumb thing was that? Izuku's mom would slightly laugh about this. Frankly, she doesn't worry too much about her boy. I mean, Izuku's kind of, well, I hate to say it, him for real. But with that said, I mean, she does have that motherly concern nonetheless. But she knows that her son is extremely powerful and 100% can take care of himself. I mean, he's shown it time and time again. Any little incident, any little accident they've ever gone through and he's ever been put in, it's as if it wasn't even really a big deal. Izuku was just fine. Every time he was fine. And with all that said, his mother says that before she forgets, someone actually called. She plays the message, and it's multiple high schools. We're talking about Shuketsu High and also UA, some of the top high schools in Japan, and also other high schools as well. But let's be honest, Izuku only wants to go to UA. The call from UA is straight from Nezu. Nezu talks about Izuku, saying that he's very impressed and he feels that they can truly hone his skills even more than you could possibly imagine over at UA. And they want him to come by for a visit really soon. He doesn't have to take any entrance exams. He doesn't have to take anything like that. He'll be allowed within Class 1A off the bat. So he doesn't have to go through the entrance exam or even the recommendation exams. He's just on board. He's going to be more or less announced as practically the number one student in Class 1A. I mean, right now, he's probably as strong as a top 10 hero, and there's an argument to be said, maybe even a top 5. But still, they would love to have Izuku on campus, so in about a couple of days, if they get a call back, they would love to give him a tour of UA. Izuku and his mother, well, they're pretty excited. Izuku actually can show his excitement as well. I mean, this is still a dream for him. Yes, he's confident about what he can do, but come on, he's going to UA. I mean, that's still an amazing thing that practically nobody, the 1% only get to do, and you got to be super strong to do so, and frankly, he knows he's strong. So he would get his visit with UA. He would walk around UA, check it out, sees what's going on. He sees the facilities, what they're offering, the type of people there, and he's impressed. Frankly, he's really impressed. And they even got a bit of a surprise for him. It's actually one of the big 3 to come. It's Mirio. Future hero by the name of Lemillion, of course. Izuku would see him and introduce himself, saying that he recognizes Lemillion as a strong fellow. He's seen him in the sports festivals. Very funny, in fact. I mean, yes, he had some trouble with his quirk here and there, but he assumes he's amazing with it now. At least from what he's seen in previous sports festivals, he's only progressed. He couldn't imagine how much he's progressed under the watch of not only UA, but he's also heard rumors of a Sir Night-Eye partnership. Is that true? Mirio would be shocked to hear how much Izuku knows. I mean, this isn't like scary or anything, but it's honestly impressive. Someone like Izuku shouldn't really be looking out for anybody and thinking about anybody else but himself, really. But it seems like Izuku is interested in a bunch of things. Interested in Mirio, interested in more or less everything that's kind of going on. And he kind of likes to stay up to date, which is definitely something you want to do as a hero and a future hero in general. But still, he's kind of flattered by it, and he more or less thanks Izuku for his compliments and his best wishes and so on and so forth. Izuku says that it's truly no problem, that he's just recognizing someone and their strength, recognizing how truly strong Mirio is and how strong he'll be when he becomes a pro hero. It's very interesting. And Izuku would get a good feeling about UA. He would finish his tour, and Nezu and even Aizawa, who would come on later, they would ask him what he thinks. He says that he thinks it's brilliant. He thinks it's great, far better than his middle school. He didn't really enjoy his middle school very much. There's a lot to be desired, but I feel like that's kind of part of the package deal when you talk about middle schools, right? But still, he talks about how UA is flat out amazing. It's definitely. The facilities are great and everything around him is just fantastic. He asks Aizawa a question about his teaching style and what kind of teacher is he truly. Aizawa says that he'll be treating everybody the same, including him, and Izuku smiles and nods. He says that's the answer he wanted to hear, and he assumes that he will openly expel people as well if they do wrong and if they suck, correct? Aizawa looks at him kind of shocked and kind of nods, saying that he likes the kid. He has the mindset of a teacher, and Izuku says he gets that a lot. I mean, when you're better than everybody else, that's kind of what happens. Aizawa shakes his head and says that he'll try to humble the kid pretty soon, and Izuku says that it's going to be harder than you think to humble him. With that said though, Izuku kind of wraps up the tour. He thinks it's great and he's excited to get to work, and says that they'll be seeing him pretty soon, and he'll sign everything he needs to sign because he's committed to UA. He leaves with his mother, and frankly, Nezu is excited beyond belief about the response and tells Aizawa not to mess this up. But Aizawa says that the kid already made his decision the second he stepped foot on the premises. He just wanted to learn more and more about what was going on, who were here, and what type of philosophies everyone has. Aizawa says the kid is very calculated, very intelligent. Even if his test scores don't necessarily show that, he'll definitely be taking UA a lot more serious than, well, little middle school, you could say. Izuku would then take the next 10 or so months to kind of celebrate, train, study, whatever he really needed to do, he would get done. He would be ready for UA, ready to take on whatever he has ahead, and frankly, he would be excited to see what other people had in store. And this would be perfect because after 10 months of waiting, he would actually get a bit of an offer to come watch the entrance exam with some of the teachers, some of the heroes, and some of the higher level students. Izuku would be down for this 100%, and he would watch the entrance exam from a booth high up. He would watch as Bakugo would blast through machines and robots quicker than you'd possibly imagine. Izuku would continue watching, but let's be honest, nobody there was on the level of him. Nothing crazy impressive, but he would sit there and chat with Mirio a little bit, who's currently watching as well, and get some information from it. From information of how or what's going to go on throughout the year, what they're going to be doing, how they'll be getting into internships and stuff like that. So it's some pretty good information that Izuku definitely wanted to hear, and a lot of things for him to look forward to. But after the day was over, he just awaited the first day of UA. The first day would finally arrive, and he would enter the classroom, and let's just say jaws would drop when he does so. I mean, the confidence itself is overwhelming. The aura around him just impresses everybody. Izuku just walks in like he's, well, the shit, because he is. And frankly, there's a lot of people there that are kind of, well, either nervous to see him and nervous to meet him, or just huge fans, or just wanting to meet him for the longest time. One of them being Mina Ashido. She would run up and immediately talk to Izuku, getting to know him as quick as possible, wanting to know what he likes and what he's all about and the type of person he is, and she just wants to know everything about him. Izuku kind of laughs this off and says that she's a bit overwhelming him right now, but they'll definitely talk a little bit later, and he'll get to know her a little bit more. And Izuku says that he really loves her shirt as he walks away. She's confused. He has a blindfold on. She asks if he's lying, and well, Izuku says that he can truly see everything, so he's not lying at all. He sits down and awaits the arrival of Aizawa, and it seems like right when he sat down, he realized that, well, Aizawa was walking in. Aizawa walks in, and he sees everybody take their seats, and he would look around, he would look around to not only see Izuku, he would also see Bakugo and many others, and then he would point at this girl at the front, saying that isn't she the one that's, well, they had to shut down the whole 0 Point robot so that she wouldn't die. She would get really embarrassed, but of course Aizawa would say that she's going to be working on that quirk. What's her name? Ochako Uraka, right? All of you will be working on your quirks, especially her. This is one thing all of you need to realize, that if you are a jeopardy, if you are, well, hurt, and you're always getting hurt in the feat of battle, you're useless. You're useless to a hero. So we're going to be training just that. We're all going to be ready. But first, I want to see what all of you guys can do. So we're going to be doing a bit of a test, a quirk assessment. Go ahead and meet me outside. Aizawa has announced that they're going to be doing a bit of a test. The quirk assessment will show off their quirks entirely, and their quirks are various different type of quirks. There's a large variety of what they can do and what they can't do. So this test will reveal just that. Izuku, on the other hand, well, there's not much he can't do. But with that said, we'll have to see what happens in the quirk assessment and whatever's to come in the next part of What If Deku was Gojo's Descendant. And if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, a sub, a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.